Bang, 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 3 sharp raps rattled our front door before the sun was even all the way up. I jolted out of my half-awake fog, barely processing the shape of 2 burly men in dark uniforms already crowding our entryway. "Ma'am, emergency HOA enforcement. You're coming with us." Their voices cut through the hallway with a chill I can still feel. In a blur, they grabbed Rebecca, my wife, standing there in her robe and slippers, coffee mug steaming in her hand, before I could do much more than shout and get shoved back. "Get your hands off my wife," I bellowed, but they didn't even glance at me, just hauled her out like she weighed nothing. As the door slammed and their footsteps thundered away, Rebecca pressed something cold and metallic into my palm, a secret handoff I barely noticed at first. "Call the number under Jith," she hissed, urgent and steady. Then she was gone. Silence rushed in, and for a heartbeat the only thing I could hear was the sound of my own breathing, ragged and shallow. I stood there, wedding ring in my fist phone, shaking in the other hand, trying to wrap my head around what had just happened. 2 officers, if you could call them that, barreled through our home, barking about 15 HOA violations like they were the FBI. Except everything about them felt off: the quick-flashed badges, the community compliance officer patches that looked like Halloween props, their cheap uniforms. I'd never heard of emergency HOA enforcers. Heck, in our 3 years living here, all we'd ever gotten was the occasional notice in the mailbox and some passive-aggressive email from the board. Rebecca didn't scream, didn't fight. She moved with this eerie calm even as they dragged her down the hall, eyes scanning exits, cataloging faces, her voice never rising above steady and professional. "Gentlemen, I'll need to see proper identification." Like she was ordering coffee, not facing a home invasion. That was the first crack in my understanding my wife in a moment of panic, not panicking at all. After the van sped off, I stumbled back to the kitchen, her coffee still steaming, her phone blinking on the counter. The number J. Smith, nothing else, just a DC area code. My fingers dialed on autopilot, and after a long, breathless wait, a clipped voice answered. "Federal Bureau of Investigation. Agent Johnson." I gave him everything what they looked like, the plate number, the rough handling. "Don't call local police," Agent Johnson said, voice sharp as a blade. "Your wife is not who you think she is. This is federal." Then just like that, the line went dead, leaving me with more questions than before. Not who I think she is. I'd been married to Rebecca for 5 years. I knew her quirks, her laugh, her favorite dumb reality shows. I knew her. Or I thought I did. Still shaking, I tore through the house, searching for something, anything to make sense of what was happening. Upstairs, behind the false panel in her closet, I found a safe I'd never noticed. Inside, a federal ID with Rebecca's photo, except the name read, "Special Agent Rebecca Chen, Mitchell Central Intelligence Agency." I felt the floor tilt under me. Spy novels weren't supposed to come true in the suburbs. Classified documents, surveillance photos, shell company files, and the same white van parked outside houses just like ours in neighborhoods just like ours. Suddenly, car doors slammed in our driveway. 4 agents in dark suits, purposeful and unhurried, filed up the walk. The lead agent, Williams, flashed credentials and said, "We need to talk about your wife." Before I could protest, they turned our living room into a makeshift command center. They laid out photos of Jake and Brad, the fake officers who'd taken Rebecca, along with charts linking them to a web of identity theft, fraud, and intimidation targeting government employees. "She was bait," Williams explained, not a hint of apology in her eyes. "This was a controlled operation and your wife volunteered." But the suspects didn't stick to the playbook. Williams showed me Rebecca's wedding ring, the same one now burning a hole in my palm, explaining how it housed a backup GPS transmitter and a hidden mic. "She's pinging from an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district," Williams said, pulling up a live map. "She's still alive, but her primary wire dropped out 47 minutes ago." And then came the twist. A choice dropped in my lap, like a live grenade. "Rebecca requested you be included. You'll stay in the tactical vehicle, oversee comms, but you'll see what she really does." Numb, half terrified, I agreed. My old life was gone, replaced by radio static and digital maps agents strapping on body armor and loading weapons like it was just another day. Inside the vehicle, every surface glowed with information. Rebecca's location, the building's thermal signatures, surveillance feeds. Identity theft ring. Williams said, pulling up files. They use fake authority figures, HOA inspectors, utility workers to get inside, steal data, extort money. My wife had been on their trail for 18 months. volunteering for the undercover assignment after similar attacks on federal families back east. Our quiet street, our friendly neighbors, none of it had been random. As the convoy rolled up to the warehouse, radio chatter ramped up. Alpha team in position north side, 3 heat signatures ground floor. Rebecca, Jake, and Brad. The tactical plan unfolded in tense whispers, multiple entry points, minimal risk to hostages. Williams kept me in the loop, showing how federal power actually moved silent, precise, coordinated. And then movement inside. All teams stand by. On the monitors, I watched Rebecca, unrestrained alert, giving nothing away. Suddenly, Jake started pacing. Brad fumbled with a phone. Williams' tablet chimed news feeds had gone live. Federal indictments unsealed. The men realized they'd been played. Their names were all over the news. Rebecca spoke, voice calm and almost amused. "You boys should check the news. I think you'll find it interesting." That was the trigger. Flashbangs, shouts, chaos. And then the dust settled with Rebecca walking out on her own power, flanked by agents but very much in control. Back in the tactical van, Williams nodded at me. "Your wife planned the whole thing. She was never a victim. She ran the operation from the moment they grabbed her." Rebecca climbed in beside me, looking tired but entirely herself. "Sorry I'm late for dinner," she said, squeezing my hand. Her eyes told the real story. She'd risked everything for people she barely knew because someone had to. The next few days blurred into evidence processing, debriefings, and trial prep. Our dining room became a fortress of laptops, files, and half-empty coffee mugs. Williams and Rebecca mapped out the network. Robert Kane, the real mastermind, was already in custody, his web unraveling across 8 states, millions in stolen assets, 47 confirmed families victimized. Seeing our names and faces reduced to criminal targeting data shook me. Property value, social media work clearances, all of it twisted into ammunition for these predators. Neighbors, once blissfully ignorant, now demanded answers. Rebecca stood before a packed community center admitting the truth. "I moved here undercover. I became a target so others wouldn't have to." She faced their questions, their gratitude, their shock. When Mrs. Patterson, the woman who'd baked us welcome bread, hugged Rebecca, I felt a pride I'd never known. Courtroom days followed Jake and Brad in orange jumpsuits, the smirk gone, listening as Rebecca dismantled their entire operation piece by piece for the jury. When the guilty verdict came down, I felt the pressure in my chest finally lift. Robert Kane got 35 years. Jake and Brad, 12 and 10. Every family that had suffered saw justice walk those men out in chains. Months later, our house is almost back to normal, almost. Rebecca testifies at conferences, now training agents, building protocols to keep authority impersonators out of neighborhoods like ours. She's done with undercover work. No more secrets, no more pretending. If you're still with me, if you ever find yourself doubting someone you love because the world suddenly doesn't make sense, remember this. Sometimes the biggest secrets hide in plain sight, carried for the right reasons. Rebecca's courage didn't just save our marriage or even just our neighbors. She changed how an entire country protects the families who serve it. So here's my question for you. Where do you draw the line between personal honesty and the greater good? Would you forgive a lie told to keep you safe? Or do some secrets cost too much even when justice wins in the end? Let me know where you stand, what you'd do if you were in my shoes, or if you've ever faced something like this yourself. I read every story, every hard truth, and believe me, sometimes sharing is the most powerful act of all.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.